I am what they would call in the old days the jack of all trades. Right? I will do the Bible. Oh, I will pick up the trash. I will do the Bible study. I will set up the recordings. I will do the worship. Glory to God. And what a great joy it is to do all that. Sometimes you could get stuck in your thoughts and think, why do I got to do everything? Seriously. I mean, has everybody ever felt like that? If you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. Those are the kind of fickle things we can think, right? Man, you know what I've realized about God? It's His good pleasure to do everything. What? How is that? You know, and when you start realizing that about God, it's not that He comes and demands that you do everything and you like it. You'll do it and you'll like it. That's that's kind of like what we've been taught about God. No, that's not how it is. But what happens when you get caught up with God, right? And you see that, man, it's His good pleasure to do everything. You start talking with Him about that. You start being saturated with what's in Him, right? With the life He has in Himself. And you start to realize the reason why it's God's good pleasure to do everything is because He's got a life in Himself that fills all things, that saturates all things. And as you start partaking of that life with Him, man, you find the same thing happening in you, where it's your good pleasure, right? To do all things, right? And you can feel happy about it. Human beings are interesting, aren't we? Because we could find ourselves in a set of circumstances, and based on what's in our heart, we could find ourselves hating those circumstances. But we could just get a change of perspective, and the same things could be going on, and we could feel okay, right? But when we're not liking the circumstances, we become so convinced that they have to change in order for us to have life, don't we? Right? But it's not that the circumstances need to change, it's that your perspective of it needs to change. What do we talk about? A bird's eye view, right? As an eagle's flying over the earth, do you think the eagle is stressed out about what's going on in the government? Do you think the eagle's stressed out about what's going on with the traffic lights and all the people that don't know how to drive? Do you think the eagle is stressed out with what's going on in the education system, in the medical community, and what's going on he's not stressed out. Do you know why? Because he's soaring above it all. He's just soaring above it all, right? Well, God has picked us up. We're carried up like wings as eagles, right? By His life. And we can get caught up in that life, and we can find ourselves transcending it all, soaring above it all, just like Peter was walking on the water, and Jesus was walking on the water in the midst of the storm, right? And so I just laugh at myself because, I mean, you guys know, I just tell you guys how I feel, right? I'm just like an open book, and you guys have seen the many faces of Greg, the faces of, man, the faces of, right? Well, man, what was it? I think it was like a year ago, I preached that message, The Excellency is of God, where I was telling God, I'll either be the preacher or the media guy. You pick, because I was busy telling God I couldn't do it all, right? And then I never heard nothing. And I'm like, what's wrong with this dude? Didn't he hear me? You ever think God didn't hear you, right? Because you think you didn't hear something back clearly? I'll promise you, He's heard you, right? And He's even actually speaking inside of you. You just haven't heard it yet. And you know what? Finally, when I came back to Him, it's like, I told you, I'll do this or I'll do that. And He said, well, Greg, you keep telling me what I can do. Who's doing it, Greg? Is it you or is it me? Right? So nothing's changed for me. Nothing has changed. And yet, I don't feel weak. I don't feel overwhelmed. I don't feel like I'm overcome. I don't feel like I don't have the time. I don't feel like any of that. Right? I feel like there's more than enough. I feel like my cup runneth over. Right? I feel like I could run through the wall. But nothing's changed. Do you see what I'm saying?